Okay, 1-5, exploring angle pairs. So in all of these we have two angles we are talking about. So our first one, adjacent angles. Two coplanar angles with a common side, a common vertex, and no common interior points. Again, we have to know what adjacent angles are because we use them constantly throughout the year. So if I look at my drawing over here, I drew two intersecting lines. So two adjacent angles would be angles EAB and BAC. So if I look at EAB, BAC, they have this ray AB in common, and they share that side, they have the common vertex, and they don't overlap. So when you're talking about our adjacent angles, it'd be like if you took your two hands, put your angles on top of each other, and your thumbs were the common side. You don't want them overlapping like this, because those aren't adjacent. They have no interior in common, so it has to be right on top of each other. Next one are vertical angles. Vertical angles are two angles whose sides are opposite rays. So if I look at ray EA and AC, AB and AD, they form these two angles, and those are my vertical angles. Angle EAB and angle DAC are vertical angles. And vertical angles, to remember them, makes a V. So if you took two V's, put them on top of each other like that, you have vertical angles. EAD and BAC are also vertical angles, so they don't have to be vertically like vertical. They could be horizontal. As long as they make the two V's back to back, we're okay. Complementary angles. If you already know this and you keep it straight, then you don't have to copy it down. But we use complementary angles all the time. They are two angles whose measures have a sum of 90 degrees. So if you know a measure is 45 degrees, and they say what's its complement, you know it's 45. If a measure is 70, you know its complement is 20, because 70 plus 20 is 90. Supplementary angles. Two angles whose measures have a sum of 180 degrees. So same thing, if you know one angle is 150, its supplement is 30. If one angle is 60, its supplement's 120. So supplementary and complementary, I remember the two. C comes before S, so 90 is before 180 or smaller. So you can, or some people remember the C goes this way and a C upside down, so there's two of them, so this is twice as large as the 90. Whatever it takes to remember it. Okay, this one you probably don't know. Linear pair. They are two adjacent angles whose non-common sides are opposite rays. So we have two adjacent angles, and their non-common side are opposite rays, or in other words, form a line. So that's a linear pair. So then they come up with, and you're probably already thinking about that, because it forms a line, that linear pair postulate says if two angles form a linear pair, then they are supplementary. Because a line is always 180 degrees, so obviously when they're two side by side, they have to make 180 degrees. So that's our postulate. Our last definition of the day, angle bisector. A ray that divides an angle into two congruent angles. Just like a segment bisector divided the segment into two congruent segments, an angle bisector divides the angle into two congruent angles. So if ray BD bisects angle ABC, so here's ABC, there's ray BD, and again, it doesn't have to look exactly right, but if it tells you that it bisects, you know that this angle here is congruent to this angle here. And you can mark it in your drawing. So, an example of a problem in this section would be the measure of ABC is 4x minus 12. Measure of angle ABD is 24. Solve for x and find the measure of angle ABC. So I know ABD is 24. Hopefully you know angle BDC is 24. So you already know the measure of angle ABC. 24 plus 24 is 48. And you know measure of angle ABC is also equal to 4x minus 12. Well, if they're equal to the same thing, we set them equal, and then we solve. So 4x minus 12 would equal 48. Add the 12 to both sides. 4x equals 60. Come back and divide both sides by 4. 60 divided by 4 is 15. And now we have found the x. Just make sure you have found both things. We found the x, we found the measure of ABC, so now we're done. And that ends your notes on 1-5.